the boring, simple thing is the biggest, first aha for a customer. People don't quite understand the power of it yet.
Welcome to Prompted, a podcast about AI, people, and the creative spark. I'm Cameron Adams, and I am fascinated with leaders who are actually using AI to be more creative, whether that's building better products, coaching their teams, or harnessing AI for their personal creativity. And today, we are joined by Ashley Kramer, Chief Revenue Officer at OpenAI, where her team acts as the bridge between OpenAI's latest models and the real value and use cases they can unlock for businesses of all shapes and sizes. Before joining OpenAI, Ashley had an unconventional path through tech, going from a software engineer at NASA to Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer and even Chief Technology Officer at GitLab. She's one of the few executives who span both technical leadership and go-to-market at scale. She also actively invests in the next wave of AI startups. Phew, Ashley, that is an amazing resume. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for the conversation today.
It is such a pleasure to have you. I want to get to know you a bit better. So let's kick off with the prompt. This is the part of the show where we get an idea out of your head and onto the page. And then we get one of our designers here at Canva to take it even further with AI. I would love you to draw something from your childhood that inspired you. Well, you tell us the story about it.
Okay.
You get 90 seconds to talk and draw. So it requires a bit of multitasking. Are you all mentally prepared?
I'm ready to go. You're clocking me?
Ready, set, go.
All right. So a little bit about my non-professional background. I played soccer my entire life. Growing up at the time that I did, women's sports weren't exactly front and center in any way, really. But there was a pretty pivotal moment that happened in 1999, the Women's World Cup, in which the women's team for U.S. went to not just the finals, but penalty kicks in the finals.
I remember it well.
Everybody probably remembers the classic moment because Brandi Chastain did a very interesting celebration ceremony around that, the whole take the shirt off thing. But what it really inspired in me was that, there was a platform for women in sports, which you can actually translate that to in professional life too. I got to watch them on morning shows, on late night TV. They did a world tour, which I actually got to go. I was not at the World Cup, but I was able to go watch them play. And I think it was just a moment for me, where I saw the future, that it was going to matter, that you could be a woman athlete or a woman executive, maybe someday a president. I did go on to play soccer. I played Division I soccer in college.
Oh, amazing. 5
knee surgeries later, I gave up soccer and I am now in tech. But that was a really inspiring, pivotal moment for me growing up.
5 knee surgeries. Wow. Show us what you got, Ashley.
All right. You ready? And I didn't use the Sharpie. I used the pencil, but let's see. Tell me if I can't tell.
I think it's coming through fine.
All right. Is that good enough?
You were talking down your artistic skills earlier, Ashley, but I think they're right on point. That is a wonderful reminiscence of the goal celebration moment. So I'm really
generous.
keen.
That's what I spent the most time on.
I'm really keen to see what Emily and AI can do with what you have put together. Audio listeners, if you want to see what Ashley has sketched, please head over to the link in the show notes to see it. And we're going to send this picture to Emily, our designer in residence. He's going to team up with AI to whip it into something new. We'll reveal Ashley, Emily, and AI's creation at the end of the episode, so stay tuned for that. But while Emily works, let's go deep on AI with you, Ashley. I'm really interested in how you first experienced generative AI and how did it shape your thoughts on where software is going?
In some of my earlier roles, when I was more on the engineering and product side, not even in leadership roles, I was working on products, this is 10 plus years ago, that had things like natural language processing and, type in a sentence. And let's say when I was at Tableau, it would bring up the analytics. So it wasn't Gen AI yet, but it was starting to move into that direction. I think where my big pivotal aha moment was, and this was actually right before I joined GitLab, was when I had somebody sitting next to me on a plane, and the whole code completion, sort of code generation for developers paradigm was just starting to come to light. The startups didn't exist yet. And I probably shouldn't have been doing this, but I was fascinated. I was watching this person next to me typing in like real regular sentences and just watching all of this code be generated. And it was actually one of the reasons I was excited to take my next career step to GitLab, because you say I had a bunch of different roles, and one can say that's because I like to be challenged and I never say no. The other could say, well, I started as a software developer and I wasn't very good at it. And because I wasn't good at it, I didn't like it. And I just started to wonder, if that existed back when I was a developer, I wonder if I would have stayed in the profession. I wonder if I would have gone on a different path, because it's making figuring out how to write code way more accessible, way more understandable. And I don't think you remove the human from the loop. I think more powerful software is created because the human brain is used on solving these big problems instead of looking through code and trying to find a bug. That was the worst ever. You get code handed off from somebody else that didn't comment it correctly, and you take days, weeks, months trying to find, something that Gen AI just mitigates for you now. So that was my very first experience. This is a while ago now, thinking, wow, Gen AI is going to change everything in the world. And I could really, really apply it to my very, very early career experience.
I personally think a bit of airplane voyeurism is absolutely fine. And I love that it inspired you into your career move.
You know what? They make privacy screens for a reason, I guess. I have one right here.
So did that actively shape your journey from GitLab to OpenAI as well?
It absolutely did. So as you mentioned, I had the honor of holding many different titles at GitLab over my 4 years there. So started on the marketing and strategy side, became CTO for a while when we really started leaning into AI. And that's when we started making the cold calls to OpenAI and some other companies to say, we have to learn what this LLM world is moving toward and how we can leverage that within our platform. And then had the honor at the end of being the one that ran marketing and sales around it. And it was just fascinating to me how quickly the models would shift and become more powerful. Then, of course, things like ChatGPT, both for personal and for work use, came to market. Same thing, started leveraging that both at home and in my professional life. And it was just really, really eye-opening that this is the future. Everything is about to change. And when given the opportunity to come join OpenAI, it, to me, was an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, it'd be an exciting move. At OpenAI, you're essentially translating cutting-edge research into things that customers will pay for. What's the biggest gap you've had to bridge between what the research team builds and what customers actually want?
I don't really consider it a gap as much as being in the center of that Venn diagram. You have customers with all of this industry and expertise around their business and what they're trying to solve in the world. Then you have our researchers, our very powerful research team, solving really, really big issues. And my team and I sit right in the middle of that, where we can both translate what the research team is trying to figure out and bring customers as part of that. And then on the opposite, I just spent 2 hours with a great enterprise this morning that has challenges that they need help on the AI side solving. And so there's that two-way street. And when we're able to combine together, again, their industry expertise, our research and AI power together, that's where we really create these powerful solutions that we can take to the world.
What's your actual process when the research team comes to you with some breakthrough? How do you decide this will make money versus this is fascinating, but it's not ready for customers? And then how do you shape that and take it from pure research through to something that's actually shipped into the market?
Now, I'm going to say this, and you're probably going to think, is that really true? Because she leads revenue. But for us, it's actually not about the making of money. It's about the value it's going to provide to customers, to consumers, depending on what it is, and the end ROI and outcomes. So that's really how we assess it.
I don't believe it.
That's you have to assess the value that it's going to bring, because again, if you put yourself in my shoes as revenue, if I see this earth-shattering breakthrough, but I don't find that it's probably going to be that repeatable or scalable either within an industry, across industries, across customers. In the end, that's actually probably not the best way to bring it out to market. The best way to bring it out to market is understanding which pieces of that breakthrough can turn into real life use cases that then can go out and provide value. So we really do start with the customer and the value they're trying to produce and work backwards, because that's the only way that we're going to scale this business.
There may be different paths you go where something might be great for an API versus something that's more in the consumer product of ChatGPT itself.
Well, and ChatGPT for work. So we have, the for work, and that is a very common one, as ChatGPT has things like, agentic capabilities within it. We want to be honest with customers. Do you really want to build on top of our model, or is this something chat can do for you? And then you can go do way more powerful innovation on top of the model. And that's the core focus of my team. My team is very much in the weeds with customers, technical sellers, so really deeply understanding their business, their use cases. And that is our job, to be honest with them. You can probably do this with chat, which you already have, by the way, today. Let's focus on some different use cases that could be even more powerful.
You've said that OpenAI focuses on research-led growth rather than big marketing efforts, and you do that to differentiate from competitors. What does that actually mean? Because I see a tremendous amount of coverage of stuff that OpenAI puts out. So to me, it seems like there is a lot of marketing behind it.
Our core is we began in 2015 as a research lab. And, we still follow the flywheel of we start with the models and the research. We apply it in ways via either ChatGPT, sitting on top of the models, or exposing the APIs where customers can build. Then we deploy it. That's sort of where my team sits on the enterprise side, is bringing it out to customers, helping them integrate it in their products, helping them transform how they're operating their business, getting the context and the details, and then taking that back to research and our product team and making sure that we're continuing to iterate together. And so what I mean by that is we measure the value based on the strength of the product. Is it being used? Are their end customers getting value? Are they getting any type of measurable productivity gains internally, which that one's a loaded one, because it is hard sometimes to measure without going and asking the human, are you saving time because you're using that? So that will be an ever evolving paradigm that we figure out with customers. We would rather do that than have the big marketing splash. Not to say that we won't do those. Our best marketing that we have in enterprise is customers. We have giant customers like Moderna, like Morgan Stanley, that have shared use cases with the world. And to me, that's how I've always approached. As you mentioned, I've been a CMO before on top of leading sales. To me, that's actually the most powerful marketing, instead of us talking about us.
As we've discovered over the last couple of years, as we've pushed more into enterprise, it truly is the greatest marketing to have great enterprise customers talking to other customers and just telling them how they use your product and uncovering the use cases that they have for it.
Yeah, and everybody's trying to figure it out together. We go in and we'll do big workshops with customers and try to help them be successful. But the customer I was meeting with this morning, we walked them through what we've seen as far as success. It was specific to ChatGPT in this case. And the CTO asked a really great question. He said, can you connect me with a few other customers that have done this successfully? I want to hear from them. I want to brainstorm what we can do better. Is it an AI champions program? Is it hackathons? Is it involving OpenAI or a partner more? And so that's what's really energizing, is when they ask that. And then we have all of these customers, C-level to just individual contributors, more than willing to have that conversation, because somebody always learns something out of it.
Yeah, it's a really great approach. And you've mentioned building repeatable patterns from one enterprise customer to another, which obviously means that you're getting deep insight into how enterprises are using it. I'm interested to hear what's been your most surprising discovery about what customers actually do with OpenAI models once they get their hands on them.
So it's really interesting. There's two here. The one is sometimes the most powerful ways that they start using AI are the most boring. Back office, mundane, in sales, I look at spreadsheets all the time. Now I can just throw it in and say, hey, can you help interpret what is happening within this data, depending on what it is? And so the first one to me is still something I experienced even 10 years ago in my career, which is sometimes the boring, simple thing is the biggest first aha for a customer. I'll tell a quick side story. I built Tableau's SaaS product way back in the day, over 10 years ago, probably almost 15 years ago now. And we used to show our technology on stage, developers on stage, we called it. And as the product leader, I would sit in the audience to gauge reactions. And, there were things we had been working on for years and people had put on the forums and I'm like, oh, they're going to lose their minds. They always clapped the loudest and sometimes teared up over the smallest little things. Now I can drag and drop and move a widget on a dashboard. That's what I think is happening in AI. It's these little small things that really make people spin that it's helping with. So that's the first one, is kind of the boring use cases and solutions are often the biggest aha moment at first for customers. I think the second is how quickly they scale use cases. We like to focus on, small but measurable and impactful use cases first. And they very, very quickly evolve. So from conversation to conversation with customers, once they start seeing the power, they start to understand what they can do to go bigger. They really start to move along faster as far as the use cases they're presenting. And so from that perspective, I think you start to see it's kind of, the snowball rolling down the hill and all of these huge use cases that start to emerge because they started with one or two.
What is the craziest kind of string of prompts and engineering that you've seen put together? Because some of the ways people string together AI and the way they get agents to interact with one another just blow my mind. And I'm sure you've seen some really great uses.
At least internally for me, it's the crazy way that if you're using, ChatGPT and you're connected to all of the right systems, your internal data, there's a lot of technology that will record calls that, of course, with the customer's approval. And, things that used to take either me or I don't need a chief of staff anymore, like a full-time person, their entire week to get context on customer use cases and account, that can happen via a GPT that I've built within usually less than 30 seconds. And so for me, it's automating those things that it might not be the craziest, but for me, that's the most powerful. One of the coolest emerging ones that I think we're going to see start coming out is around voice. And you can tie this to customer service. You can tie this to translation. Everybody hates the chatbots where you're talking to a chatbot and you just keep writing human, human, human. Everybody hates calling and yelling, agent, agent. I think in the future, they're still probably going to want an agent, but it's going to be an automated agent. And it's going to cut the time that you're sitting on the phone, maybe even avoid it, down from many minutes to hopefully a minute or less. We have a customer case study with company Klarna who did this, and it used to, on average, take them 11 minutes to solve a customer refund issue, and they cut that down under 2. Guess how they measured success of that? Customer satisfaction went up. And so that's how they knew that investment was worthwhile. So there's going to be a lot around voice. No matter what language you speak, you'll be able to call and get support. You won't have to worry about the language translation. Voice will do that for you. So going into the future, I think there's going to be a lot of power in what we're able to do when it comes to Gen AI and voice.
Yeah, I love that you've called out customer satisfaction, because CSAT is something that I've also been pushing with our teams to ensure that whatever they're doing to improve their systems or what they think is improving it is actually making our customers happier, because that's the crucial thing.
Super important.
I love that you also called out the kind of the small things that people get excited about. And I got a taste of this at our Canva Create event earlier in the year. And we're announcing a bunch of massive things on stage, but it was these what we call closing the loop moments, where you've taken customer feedback, you've improved the product based on that, and you're pushing it back out to them and telling them about it. And we were on stage and you just hear these little murmurs of excitement from the front row. And it was incredible to feel that energy from customers and know that you're creating a great product for them that gets them excited.
I love it. It's so interesting and powerful when you see the reactions, and it's usually just these little lifts that are really meaningful to customers. And it's hard to gauge that when you're building all of these different things at once.
You mentioned a bit of a journey from going from the small, boring stuff through to these complex workflows that you can engineer once you know what you're doing. But how does company culture play a role in successful AI deployments? Do you have any interesting examples of companies deploying AI and empowering their staff really well?
Yeah, a company that did this really great was actually Moderna. So the way I like to describe it is you really need the initiative to be led from the top, support from the top. However, the people actually building it and leveraging it, it needs to be a bottoms-up use case, because let's say a CEO is probably not going to know what your everyday finance person does and works on. But when they don't feel that sort of, I wouldn't say pressure, but that maybe even mandate to leverage AI, become AI literate, and help control the change management that goes with that, sometimes it falls as like an afterthought or aside. So back to Moderna, that CEO actually got up in front of his company and said, I want everybody using ChatGPT at least 20 times a day. And my guess is he definitely led by example. Some of our more successful customers take us up on our offer, which we give to our enterprise customers, to do an executive-led ChatGPT session where we get all of the C-levels and VPs in a room and we train them, just like we would train their team on AI. So when they're showing that support, they're supporting the change and communicating the importance of becoming AI literate as a complete organization, then you really start to get the wheels spinning from bottoms up of all of the people in the different organizations finding and sharing these powerful use cases.
Is there a tipping point that you see where AI has been fully embedded into an organization? Like, is it people using it 5 times a day or once a week, or they're putting more and more content into it? What is it that really triggers people to be AI first?
For me, it always starts out as the individual. Then it goes up that step to teams are leveraging it together. Then it goes up to organizations are able to have these multi-step or multi-agent workflows that are really solving issues. I mean, I could sit here and have a 1,000, back and forth messages with ChatGPT, and sometimes I do when I'm brainstorming anything from the outfit I'm going to wear tomorrow to a powerful business solution. But the real power is when you're figuring out how to do that together, how to create a GPT, share it, with your team. An example of something that is like, again, one of those small things, but it's been super powerful for me and my team. Often when I meet with customers, I want to send them a follow-up email. I'm going to admit I don't necessarily sit at home at night and type from scratch these. I send the team notes so they know what happened. So they started ghostwriting my emails. Didn't sound like me. They didn't really know me at the time. I was newer. So I had my assistant take a bunch of podcasts that I've done, articles that I've written in the past, some of my keynotes, and put it in to a GPT that then turned into the Ashley Comms GPT that is written in my voice. They have the context of the notes from the meeting, easier on the sellers that are doing it for me. And I have to fix maybe less than 5% of what they send me to my follow-up emails. It's powerful.
Is that what you mean when you talk about teams starting to use AI together, or are there kind of bigger pieces of teams working together with AI?
There's all kinds of different, bigger examples, of course, of how you can do this. If you even think of how engineers can be working together to, ideate, then create that PRD, and then, collectively start writing the code together, automate a lot of that process. If only an individual engineer was doing that, that would be a lot of extra work. But if you're all collaborating together and you're all, on the same page, moving in the same direction, sharing what's working, what's not, by the way, fixing our own product as we go to make sure that we can then deliver it to customers. That's where you really find the power. That's where in sales, we're automating a lot of end-to-end workflows that, used to take humans to do. And those humans are still at the company, but they're doing like much more powerful roles, like customer facing roles, instead of sitting behind and, catching inbound leads and trying to figure out if they're going to be effective leads. All of that can be automated so we can spend the time building the relationships with the customers, supporting them, creating what the next steps are going to be with them.
I also read that you actually use AI avatars of some sort to kind of role play the sales motion with your sales reps as well. Is that true?
We do. We use our voice capabilities, even beta voice capabilities. The reps, I take no credit for this. They actually showed me how they do this. They prepare for sales conversations. So they say, I am about to go speak with Cameron at Canva and just want to know how to better prep, maybe what's on his mind. And the funny thing is it flips into a coach and it will correct them and say, that felt a little bit too much like a sales pitch, or I don't really think Cameron in his role would care about that, or we've actually already tried it with them. And it goes back and forth and coaches them on how to have that conversation, and they feel more well prepared. They're not leveraging their manager's time for that. And, the more and more they use it, the better and deeper the model gets about understanding them and their style and helps them really evolve to the next level. It's really quite powerful.
That's a pretty cool use. And it sounds like you've implemented quite a few AI processes for the team. Is there any moment inside OpenAI where when someone says, let's do this with AI, there's ever any pushback?
Never. Never, because we want to continually be pushing the limits on what we can do. I will say sometimes even I try stuff and it doesn't work, but nobody will ever say, no, don't try that. And some of the best things that we've released to market actually started because somebody in customer support or sales or marketing had an idea, tried it out. And we do have an innovation team that if it's a powerful enough agent they're building, GPT that they have, we hand it over to that team and they work to figure out how we can actually take it to customers. So I can't think of any cases where somebody thought, I want to try to use AI to solve that we would say no.
I'm sure there were some slightly awkward moments when you're first coaching sales folk with an AI avatar and getting it to critique them.
I've sat in and listened to some of the sessions, and it's a pretty good coach. It doesn't really hold back, to the point where I was like, I wonder if for some of my talks, some of my keynotes coming up, maybe that'll be one of my best speaker coaches. Ashley, you're saying too much, or, that be happier. You're boring. It doesn't really hold back.
You've already mentioned so many tidbits that I think people can take into their own usage of AI, but presumably you're using it 24 hours a day. Well, not when you're sleeping, but you're using it very intensely, and you get insight into how ChatGPT and the rest of OpenAI's services work the best. Is there anything you do that you think might surprise people that they could take into their day-to-day?
Well, the first thing I'll say is you can be using it 24/7. We had a new GM of healthcare start one day, and we were in a meeting, and he kept kind of just looking at his computer, and I said, what are you doing? He said, I've had an agent running all day. I have to take a last minute flight to DC, and I really want a window seat because it's a red eye, but there was none. So it's continually checking to see if anybody is switching seats so it can go grab that for me and move me. From that perspective, you technically can be using it 24/7.
That was an amazing selling moment. Thank you.
Yeah. I got so excited about Nate's story. I forgot your question. What was your question?
Is there anything that you do with ChatGPT that you think might surprise people and something that they could take into their day-to-day?
Yeah, I think, for me, the best lessons always learned are what not to do. So I'll tell you something I'm getting better at. And I actually asked ChatGPT this earlier, said what do I do improperly with ChatGPT? And it actually basically told me my prompts are not good. And it said, you overuse, make it stronger. In the future, you should say, I'm writing a deep strategy doc to be presented to executives, and please keep it in a professional but friendly tone, then there would be less back and forth. And so I am not using my own technology properly when it comes to prompting. And I do believe that's going to be one of those big lifts when I start to get better at prompting, even on the make it stronger. I didn't realize I actually used it that much until it told me earlier today.
That's a great virtuous cycle of ChatGPT prompting you prompting it, and you both getting to a better place at the end of it.
And it's just labeling me as she is difficult. That's fine. That's fine.
I'm sure it passes no judgment whatsoever. OpenAI recently released this fascinating study revealing how people are using ChatGPT for their everyday tasks. And there were a few stats that stood out to me. Firstly, 28% of people dealt with writing assistance in some form or another, but only 3.9% of uses were for creative ideation. This seems pretty small. And I'm interested in what your take is. Is ChatGPT being underused for creativity?
I think it's less that it's being underused, but where we are on the curve is people are using it like I am to make them stronger in their writing, freeing up time for them to think more creatively. And as they start to understand how, okay, it's definitely made me a better writer. I always thought I was actually okay at that, and that it's wild how much better it is. Then you start using it as that creative thought partner. I remember back in the day, several companies ago, I was CMO, and I paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to an agency to help me come up with just like a quick tag of what we were going to, rebrand the company and iterate on what we currently had. So much money. They came back with 100 options. I didn't like any of them, so I took pieces of all of them and ended up doing it. ChatGPT would have done that for me in 15 seconds and probably would have come up with something better than both the agency and myself. And so when people start to understand how that can work, I think that's where you're going to see that 3.9% of creativity use cases really start to evolve.
I'm sure that's a pretty general audience that analysis was done on. So I'm interested in what you're hearing from creative professionals about how they're adapting their workflows and their skill sets to AI of all sorts.
Yeah, they're really, really excited, especially when I go I was just in Europe talking to some ad agencies and, a lot of people within marketing departments. That's exactly what they're doing. They're using it as these creative thought partners. So particularly the ones that are using it in their roles, able to evolve, not have to bring in as much extra help, not have to, spend their time on a lot of the mundane things that go into what it takes to be creative. And I've always had massive respect for people in brand because it's, it can make or break a company. And I think the more that they're able to have that creative thought partner together, the more they're going to be able to evolve, competitively stand out, and even build businesses on it, which we're seeing companies do.
Of course, the internet has been absolutely abuzz with the launch of your amazing Sora 2 video product. Basically enables people to create some pretty amazing videos that have fully synced audio, and they create these amazingly realistic worlds. Are you seeing some interesting creative uses of it yet?
You're right. This was a very highly anticipated launch and has been really well received. And we are just so excited to see where it goes next. We'll do, some creative things at our upcoming events that we have planned for the rest of the year. And that's always the best part of the keynotes, when we can actually bring it to life for customers and just show them the possibilities. Then, of course, the feedback starts rolling in on what they want next, and we're up for the challenge.
Putting Sam Altman in your fantastical duck racing course in your hype video is definitely one of the best hype video moments I've seen. One of your new executives, Fidji Samo, recently announced OpenAI is moving into AI training and certifications. So you're basically going from here's the tool to here's how to use the tool. What's the actual goal here? Are customers buying AI, but they're not actually using it effectively?
I think there's twofold. One, they could be using it more effectively. They could be using it to elevate their role and, accelerate within whatever they're doing. And I do think, there has been this fear for a while of like, will AI replace me? And the answer is not if you know how to leverage it properly. It will really take you to the next level. And this is our message of let us help. Let us help you understand how to properly use it. And this is a question I hear even from, different professions. My brother is an emergency room doctor. And he actually called me a few weeks ago and he said, I really think I should be using AI more. I mean, very smart person. He's a doctor. What are some ideas you have for me to learn more about it? And I thought once this certification platform is ready, I'm going to send him to that. And he's going to understand how to leverage it both in his professional and his personal life. And so I think this is just another step for us to help everybody in the world that would like to become AI fluent and more AI literate get there. And then again, create their next path professionally.
OpenAI is breaking the mold in so many different areas. And I think people are looking to you to see what the future is going to be. From your vantage point running revenue, where do you see OpenAI's biggest untapped growth opportunities?
Where isn't there untapped growth opportunity? I think there's going to be so many evolutions of what's coming next. And so I see all kinds of potential. I'm most excited about, solving disease and, some of the things that we just as humans could not collect all of the data and make sense of what's going to actually do things like cure forms of cancer. And so for me, there's twofold, like the technology side and then the what can we solve as a society that will be really powerful together as models get more robust, AI gets better, we make them, have more context, be more industry specific. That's really exciting to me.
Let's change pace a little. I would love to know who you would have on your all-star creative team. You get 4 seats. You can pick anyone from any era, dead or alive, any universe. Who would you have?
Not just because he's the boss, but I believe Sam Altman is creating the future. So I would have Sam leading the charge on that team. Second is one of the most great creative product minds that's ever existed, Steve Jobs. So I think with Sam's visionary, Steve Jobs being able to really focus on like what the product vision should be. This one's a little bit of a turn, but the most amazing storyteller in the world, Taylor Swift. To create that story and to bring people along and help them understand the show. And then the final one, I think about this a lot. Like, I think Walt Disney predicted with like his immersive experiences, even back in like the 70s and 80s via his amusement parks and the movies he was creating. I think he saw the future, just wasn't really in the know on how to, and we didn't actually have the technology back then to solve it. So I think if I could have him on the team to really create what the immersive next world looks like, I think that would be my 4-person powerhouse team. And hopefully I get a seat on that. I don't know. I wasn't sure if I was an option. I don't know what I would bring. Honestly, I'll do podcasts.
You're managing them. So I think that's an awesome bench to have if you're looking after them. I would also love to see Taylor's take on product because like she is amazing at so many things, not just the music part, but how she brands herself, how she runs events, how she's turned it into a global phenomenon. I think she could really spread her wings. I think Emily has had enough time to feed your sketch into AI and work with it a bit. So let's bring her back to see the final results of this human AI, human creative triangle. Well, Emily, you there?
This is exciting.
Yes, I'm here and I am ready.
All right, show us what you got.
So actually, your sketch of the Women's World Cup win, such a cool one to work with. I really loved how that moment wasn't just about soccer, it was also about how empowering it felt for you. So since the World Cup already feels so big and dramatic, I thought, why not turn it into a bit of a movie trailer? So I used AI to build a bit of a photorealistic Hollywood-style trailer that builds on the energy of that final match and also ties back into your journey.
Excited. This could be Oscar winning.
Oscar winning.
I just thought I was getting a picture. This is great.
Using a bit of ChatGPT, Leonardo, and Canva AI magic, here is your memory reimagined as a blockbuster.
Oh, there's little Ashley. Running the field, cheering on. This is amazing quality, Emily.
It really is.
That was incredibly cinematic.
That's going to be a hit.
mind-blowing.
That's going to be a hit. That was awesome.
I thought it was going to be a
Thank you.
picture as well. I don't know how you pulled off an entire movie trailer in the space of 30 minutes.
It's inspiring.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing reinterpretation of Ashley's drawing. And audio listeners, if you want to see this cinematic creation, and you really should, please go and click in the show notes to see it.
That was great. Thank you.
Let's close out this episode with our rapid fire questions. We've got 60 seconds on the clock. Are you ready, Ashley?
Let's do it.
What are you reading at the moment?
For the 10th time Innovator's Dilemma, because that's what a lot of enterprises that we're talking to are going through right now.
Amazing book. First thing you built with AI?
The first thing I built with AI was back in my Tableau days via natural language generation processing. Again, this is a long time ago, but that was my first step into AI.
What is your favorite underrated AI tool?
I actually think it's still ChatGPT because I think people don't quite understand the power of it yet.
Always be selling, Ashley.
No,
Favorite?
I was a CTO.
Sum up AI in one word.
Amplification.
Nice. You and AI are making an album. What's the genre?
Oh boy, it's probably rap, but like a little bit of old school rap.
Okay, nice. What is a creative project you've had in the back of your mind for ages that you just want to jumpstart with AI?
I've always, not because I think I'm interesting, just because I think down the road I will forget a lot of things because of what I've done. I would love to, write a book, again, not for the world, but for like family and for me down the road. And I think AI can elevate that. And I don't want to sit down and start typing. And I think that would achieve my internal only Ashley biography.
That is really nice. And last one, finish this sentence. The surprising thing AI taught me about myself is...
I'm not as good of a writer as I thought I was.
Oh, harsh. And that is it. That's all we have time for. Thank you so much for diving deep with me on the business opportunities of AI and creativity. Ashley, it has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you today.
Had a blast. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
I think today's episode started on exactly the right note. Ashley's memory of watching the 1999 World Cup that led her to dream big, from First Division soccer to being an amazing tech leader. That has inspired her to play a pivotal role in bridging AI research into real-world applications that benefit us all. She reminded us that sometimes the boring, simple thing is the biggest aha moment for customers, and that to drive true organizational adoption of technologies like AI, it needs to start at the top and permeate every single level. You need to think about how you can get your teams to use an AI assistant 20 times a day and lift their load while thinking of the big stuff. Definitely the most important thing, though, you need to remember is the possibilities that using AI as a creative thought partner can unlock. Ashley's seeing it firsthand with creative teams that are using AI to competitively stand out and evolve what they're offering their customers. Thank you for listening to this episode of Prompted, a podcast about AI, people, and the creative spark. To keep up with future episodes, please subscribe wherever you love to listen to podcasts or head on over to YouTube. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a rating or a review. We read every single one, and we always love hearing your thoughts. Until next time, keep chasing that creative spark.